Well, I asked, where's the beef? Let's call this for what this is. Oh my God! They are so hopelessly woke. How dare you? That is the intellectual capital of the left today. Give me a break. You are now watching the Daily Roundup. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Daily Roundup on this, a Thursday, June 8th, 2023. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, let me tell you a little bit about my co-host, shall I? Do you know, folks, today is National Upsy Daisy Day, and my co-host does not celebrate this day because in 2023, Upsy Daisy, well, it sounds like the name of a drag queen. She is the she-devil with a spatula. She is the Khaleesi of BC. She is Drea Humphrey. How you doing there, Drea?
I'm good, David. Hi, everyone. And you're right. That's you should go in the drag queen naming business. That is a really good name for a drag queen. Upsy Daisy.
You know, so many words from the past. I mean, hey, even gay. Gay used to be, I'm happy. I remember on Avenue Road in Toronto, there used to be a card shop called the Gay Gordon's Card Shop. I think by the late 70s, they were out of business.
Yeah, or they changed their name, had a whole new meaning.
So it's just funny how words change their meaning over time. And now, of course, there's this plague of phobia or ism against any word of any community of which you have a differing opinion. You're a hater, a bigot, etc. So, but we carry on, don't we, Drea? So, my friend,
we sure do.
Usually it is the job of you or any of my other co-hosts to lay down the rules of engagement of what we're ostensibly trying to do here.
Lay down the law. Well, welcome everybody to the Daily Roundup. And it's a fun segment that we get to do live, so no editing done, and you can join us as well. So we go over the latest and current affairs, we rant a bit, and we invite you to comment through something called live chats. You can do that on Rumble or Odyssey. There's a little thing on the bottom for you to see. You go there, you do a chat, a donation towards our journalism to help keep the lights on here and keep us going. And then we try to read those and incorporate that into the show. So it's really fun. I hope to hear from you guys. And so what are we talking about first?
Well, of course, more virtue signaling on Parliament Hill, courtesy of you-know-who. Yes, folks, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, he was raising the pride flag. Probably he wasn't doing it. That might take too much toxic masculinity, but he was there for the raising of the pride flag. Only a week late, mind you. But anyways, let's see what Blackface had to say about his latest woke virtue signaling effort.
Yeah.
And with that, I'd like to invite our Prime Minister and Minister Marcy Ian to raise the pride flag, the moment we've all been patiently waiting for.
Yes, all of us. So patient. We'll see if he can do it this time. Remember, he struggled with the Canadian flag before in the past? It's a sign.
It's the string, Justin. Pull a string. Prize every time.
Water box, drinks box thingy. Juice box. Oh, you got it. There it goes.
Yeah.
Our nation's new religion.
Well, Drea, let me weigh in, and then I want to get your opinion on what we just saw. First of all, I want to speak about is it called intersex, I think? Intersex phobia going on that old-fashioned Pride Progress flag. Because you see, folks, the newest Pride Progress flag, the white triangle, is now, it encompasses yellow. Thank you, super producer Efren. And as you can see, there's this purple circle. I think that's called the purple flurple or something, and that represents intersex. Drea, I think it's only a matter of time. And by the way, I'll tell you this, forget what it stands for. The original rainbow pride flag, because I'm a huge fan of less is more when it comes to engineering or graphic design. It's a great flag. It kind of reminds me of the retro, old-fashioned Houston Astros jerseys. 7 bars of equal size forming the colors of a rainbow. Although I've never quite seen a rainbow in those 7 colors, but I digress. And then along comes Pride Progress, which is I think it's called the BIPOC vagina is the name of the symbol. And that's the white, baby blue, and pink for the trans community. But wait a minute, the rainbow flag, that's LGBT, T is for trans. So they were already represented, but they needed extra special representation. And then the brown and the black, that's for brown people and black people. Wait a minute.
Racialized.
Well, that's the thing.
Racialized. Get the terminology correct. Okay.
Yeah, well, I thought it was about sexual orientation, gender identification. And now since, I don't know, maybe last year, you've got the yellow with the purple flurple circle for the intersex people. I swear to God, Drea, I'm expecting next year an illustration of the kitchen sink to be superposed on the flag. Anything goes. First of all, what do you have to say about the lack of sensitivity by our Prime Minister for not raising the current Pride Progress flag?
Yeah, it's just another failure on his long list of failures. I mean, and why stop there? There are now people identifying as cats and vampires. So, I mean, the flag needs to be a lot bigger to incorporate that. But you're right. Why is there all of a sudden a strike for, people of color to be on there? I think it's just that this is such a small group. And so they need more. They want to keep getting more people to add so that their voice, their message, their ideology can be pushed further and louder. And that's why you're seeing it drip into race. They need to build their army. So,
yeah, you know what? That's a good point. Because and if I was a person of color, I'm going, why are you dragging me into that? I mean, there's almost a suggestion that if you're brown or black, you are therefore part of the LGBT community, when probably it's the same percentage, which is less than 2% of the overall population. So I really want to get an understanding of who designed this to bring race into it. And by the way, why only black and brown people? I'm not sure what color you would use to represent Asian people, right?
Yeah, or indigenous. No, you're right. It's so many questions. And it reminds me of the Black Lives Matter movement, because I don't know if you noticed that there was a lot of Black trans lives matter happening there. Do you remember that? And
yes.
And a lot of the donations went to Black trans organizations. I mean, how many people are in that group? So there is a push, but not just that. If you look at some of the advertisement that is, really trying to say like, hey, look, this is our pride stuff, there is such a disproportionate amount, meaning there are a lot of Black people in this. And that is just not correct for how many percentage of Black people are, trans or what have you. But they seem to be pushing that all over, sort of an advertisement to Black people like, look, this is for you. Come join us. So it's not lost on me. I'm even seeing it in cartoons, believe it or not, Strawberry Shortcake, things like that, where you'll have like 2 trans characters or 2 LGBTQ characters, and 2 of them are Black. And it's like, what's that all about? So
I got to start reading the funnies again, Drea. You're giving me some new news here that Strawberry Shortcake are now trans people. What?
Yeah,
holy smokes. You know what?
It was a drag queen, and someone who looked like they possibly... They're cartoons, but you know what I mean?
But we know what age group that's launched at. So I've always said nothing against drag queens. You want to go to a bar, taking a drag queen show, hey, whatever floats your boat. But don't bring it into a library. Don't bring it into an elementary school. It's terrible.
Right.
I can only imagine 10 years from now what that flag is going to look like. And I'm not kidding, Drea. I think there'll be so many new symbols. Like you said, hey, we got to throw in like a cat and dog face for the furry community, because where do you draw the line without being called blank phobic? And I want to say one other thing. Why does blackface get away with raising the flag a week late? This is June 8th. I think it was done either today or yesterday. Where was blackface on June the 1st? Oh, I know where, because I dropped by. He was at the Toronto Raptors practice facility. I thought he was maybe looking for another special rapporteur. See what I just did there?
Yeah.
Barry Horowitz, pat on the back.
You're so witty.
But no, Drea, he was there to launch another useless virtue signaling exercise. I don't know if you know this, but last June, for a week ago, I should say, that was the first National Day against gun violence. And how does one go about decrying gun violence and doing something about it? Well, it looked like getting a whole bunch of young people to come to the Raptors practice facility and wear T-shirts saying, "Stop gun violence." Well, I guess the gangbangers at Jane and Finch are just going to drop their Glocks, once they see those T-shirts. And one other thing, once he declared this new National Day, not a holiday for anyone, even the silly servants in Ottawa, did blackface bugger off again to Tofino to go surfing? Kind of like what he did during another National Day 2 years ago. But, Drea, how does he get a pass by being a whole week late in raising the flag? Look, I could care one way or the other, but I would suspect if I'm one of these hardcore zealots of the alphabet mafia, I'm really pissed right now that he didn't raise that flag right on June 1st. In fact, midnight, May 31st, started up the poll. So what do you say?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure some were waiting patiently. I do know there was a couple of flags on other parts of the parliamentary building that circulated on social media and things like that. But perhaps this is because we are being conditioned to be reminded that it's Pride season now, David. So there's plenty of time to raise the flag. A week into it sort of revives it and reminds people that this is an ongoing thing. This is, I keep calling it, Canada's new national religion. And so maybe that was part of the strategy. It's like, let's stretch it out.
You really triggered a thought there with the new religion, because so many of these people in this woke community, they are so anti-Christian, so anti-Catholic. They're so dismissive of Christian faith and pretty much just Christian faith. They won't go onto the third rail and start condemning, Islam or Buddhism or you name it. And yet, here we have in this community that all these colors and symbols represent something called Two-Spirit. Drea, I might be wrong, but Two-Spirit, it kind of sounds a little religiously to me. What about you?
I think there's a spiritual connection, and that's more of Indigenous. I know it's more common terminology used with Indigenous people, but you're right. There's a lot going on there. And the good news, and we'll talk a little bit about it later, there are signs that the average Canadian who is not a bigot, just does not want things like this shoved down their throat, has had enough. So we're going to get to that soon. So that's encouraging.
I think you're absolutely right. Before we go on to the next subject, I can tell you, Drea, if you want proof in the pudding about how people are revolting on this, look at Bud Light, Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah.
More than $16 billion US obliterated from their stock value. Bud Light is no longer the number one beer brand in America. Imagine that, Drea. 40 years of billions of dollars of marketing going into Bud Light when there were fun campaigns like Spuds McKenzie, right?
Yeah.
Just destroyed overnight. I don't think it's coming back, right?
Overnight,
all because of this wokeism. Ask Target with their tuck in your private parts bathing suits and their big pride displays. By the way, I wonder about this.
Well, and it wasn't just the tuck in. It was the clothing line targeting children specifically, designed by a Satanist who put some satanic symbols. Like, you can't make this stuff up.
You can't. And I truly wonder, and maybe it will happen because of the backlash, July 4th is Independence Day for our American brothers and sisters. Will Target's red, white, and blue pro-America displays rival the size of their pride displays? I really wonder. If there was no controversy, I would say no, but maybe they're going to really triple down on the red, white, and blue to say, forget about that rainbow stuff last month. We're with you.
I think you're right. I wouldn't be surprised to see Budweiser even do the same. But it's not just U.S. We're naming U.S. examples. I don't know if we can find the article fast, and then maybe we'll jump to the next thing. But a CTV article that came out of Ottawa shown that there was a big decline in how many children were going to school on Pride Day. So they had, from memory of reading it a few days ago, they had at least 9 schools that had over 40% not attend school. And then they had 2 of those schools, of those 9 schools, have over 60% non-attendance rates. So that was all June 1st. Of course, some kids normally miss, but there we go. There's the article right there. That is a high percentage. I don't know what it looked like for other provinces. I do know people kept their kids home as well in BC. How many, I'm not sure. Might be a good sort of tip for us to do. But again, this is the silent majority. They're not doing Facebook posts. They're not going to protest because they're so terrified of being labeled bigots. But when you send home this indoctrination notice saying, hey, this whole day is going to be dedicated to, to learning about sexual orientations and celebrating them, parents are going, sounds like a snow day in June to me.
Oh, no, you're so right. Andrea, south of the border, on the similar note, you see in states like California, Virginia, Muslim and Armenian parents pulling their kids out of school for this nonsense. And what I love is how the left is now turning itself into an ideological pretzel, because no more, when you have Armenians and you have Muslims, they can't blame this on white MAGA-wearing white supremacists anymore. That is obliterated, because people of so many communities, so many faiths, so many nationalities and countries of origin are not standing up with this. So this idea that these are just MAGA bigots, sorry guys, not a chance. Just look at the reality on the ground.
Absolutely.
So, and by the way, super producer, what are we watching right now?
Heated school board meeting. My goodness.
This is the Armenians against. Right. Oh yeah, and Antifa, I got a little message for you. You know what? I wouldn't show up at too many of these future events because
goodness, look at that, hey.
Yeah, let's just put it this way: there was a hell of a lot of more people like Dre and I and our audience than there are of you, right? And if you want to go to one of these school board meetings or into the public square wearing trouble on your shirt, be prepared. We are sick of this garbage being thrown down our throats, being told we are bigots and homophobes and transphobes, and you better get on board or else we're going to give you a knuckle sandwich. I think we're seeing the environment change a little bit here, Drea.
Well, I have an interview tomorrow with actually one of the activists who was at that protest, one of the Muslim activists, to talk about what's been happening in Maryland and everything. So that should be interesting for everybody. But I think it's people are noticing, and so we'll see how that plays out. But the good news is that they're starting to see, they're so blindsided if they only follow the state preferred media that pretends every parent who's opposed to these sexual orientation curriculums in schools is some sort of bigot. Then they see things like kids not showing up to school on Pride Day or what's happening with Target. And you can actually see in the comments parents going, what's going on here? There can't be that many bigots. I've seen that comment. And people are like, they always go to the books. They go,
Yeah.
it's because books like this are in school. And then the people in the comments are shocked because the mainstream media is never showing them those books. Of course, Rebel News, we've shown you a lot. We have 2 different pages that show that, whether it's stopclassroomgrooming.com or keepkidsspacessafe.com. So they're even finding Rebel News through this as well.
You know, and that's fantastic. And before we depart from this subject and go to our first ad break, Drea, to the question, how insane can this get? Well, here's the answer, folks. Toronto's Humber College, this is a college, is hosting a 2S LGBTQ plus ecology event. It will feature discussions on, quote, the many ways we see queerness, end quote, in plants and animals.
My goodness.
Drea, please, me being a journalist of very little brain here, please explain gay dandelions and lesbian killer whales. I don't know. Like, what is this?
I don't know. I mean, a lot of the times, like when people are talking about, oh, trans is not gender dysphoria, it's happened in animals, it's happened in things like this. So I guess this is to really give them a grasp on this. But it also reminds me, and parents, look out if your child starts saying, did you know that worms, are both male and female? So this is something, it's another thing that's, it's gender ideology. And it's okay to learn this stuff if you're truly focused on science. But part of it is being used to push the gender ideology on these kids. So the parents aren't always catching on, but if they push in a little further, like, well, what else were you told? Sure enough, it's a book that's being read in schools that's 2 worms, and it promotes cross-dressing. They get married and they both mix. They're both wearing, the bride's dress and the men's groom and stuff. And so your 5-year-old, your 6-year-old is trying to process all this. So that is something to look into if your kid starts talking about the worms. Find out what the whole lesson was.
That is unbelievable. And it is so disingenuous because here's the difference. The worm was created, has evolved, whatever word you want to choose, that way. This is not a male worm or a female worm going, you know what? I identify as the opposite sex worm, right? And I mean,
that's how they were created.
Because that's, I mean, this is perverting science beyond belief. Yeah. I will say this, Drea, there is indeed a word for a species of animal that has gone completely gay. You know what it is? Extinct. Anyways, folks, we got to take an ad break, and we'll be right back on the other side.
Canadians for Truth proudly presents An Evening with Sarah Palin. Former Alaska Governor and Vice Presidential candidate Sarah Palin's remarkable journey and steadfast dedication to speaking up when it's easier to stay silent are just a few of the many reasons you'll want to hear from her. This event will be hosted by Olympians Theo Fleury and Jamie Soleil and promises to provide valuable insights, inspiration, and entertainment. Get ready for an incredible evening, Sunday, June 18th, 2023. The show starts at 7 p.m. at the Grey Eagle Event Center in Calgary, Alberta. But act now, because tickets for this will not last.
So moving right along, Drea, our next topic is something, well, it's right in our wheelhouse.
Actually, David, 1 second. Just because we have a live chat that relates to what we talked about before. And those tuning in, you can chat with us and be a part of the show at Rumble and Odyssey. So Cool Beans 89 donates $5. Thank you very much. And just wants to let everybody know that there used to also be a movie theater called the Gay Theater in Toronto. So that was earlier when you were talking about the card store. So
the Gay Gordon's card shop. You know what? I don't remember. Could you? I'm not trying to solicit another super chat out of you, but I mean, I go back several decades in this city. I remember so many of the theaters that came and went. I don't remember that one or where it was located. I want to know. So if you can educate us on that. But I get the feeling, Drea, it was probably a grandiose, spectacular movie theater, much like the old University Cinema, which has been demolished, the Carlton Cinema, the Eglinton. Boy, they don't build them like that anymore. Now they're little cookie cutter multiplexes, barely larger than your rec room. But once upon a time, I guess before television, of course, you needed a 2,000-seat cinema to pack them in. That's not how it works these days. And I see, Mr. Producer, he has come up with, there it is.
Look at that.
It's not
Great
as grandiose as I thought it would be. Kind of looks like the Red Barn. But, Efren, does it say where that's located? We're busily looking for
Theater.
It. Parliament Street. Wow. And you know what?
It had a whole new meaning, or whole other meaning.
Funny enough, you get up to Parliament and Carlton, that is kind of, the outer boundaries of the gay village. So I would say, there's a new place for the gay cinema. On Parliament Street in Toronto, you might be well patronized given the neighboring neighborhood. But as I was saying, Drea, here's something right in our wheelhouse: online censorship. Yeah, because guys, who blackface is coming for when it comes to all these censorship bills. And lo and behold, a minister challenges senators to stand up to tech giants on Bill C-18. As blackface accuses them of bullying tactics. Oh, that's rich, Drea. Justin Trudeau is accusing someone or something else of being a bully? You got to be kidding me.
It's so shocking. It's so shocking. But, not surprising at all to see it. I just lost the article. I was planning on reading some of it. But there we go. And of course, sorry, my screen, I'm on a different device than I normally use, so I can't actually see all of that. David, did you want to take over while I find myself?
Oh, who do you think I am? Clark Kent? I mean,
I'm sorry.
No, Olivia's going to bump it up for you, Dre. Okay.
No, it's you know what it is, Olivia, and thank you so much. It's so important to have the behind the scenes team. It's for some reason it's half of the screen. I'm only seeing half of the article, and I don't know what I've done to see it on there. So sorry.
Sure. Okay. So here we go, folks. Heritage Minister Pablo Rodriguez says the world is watching Canada because of its federal online news bill. Actually, that's the first lie, folks. I'm doing a little fact check as I read. The world is watching Canada because of all the smoke from the forest fires engulfing the likes of Manhattan. But I digress. As he urged senators to stand up to the tech giants' threat to withdraw access to news on their platforms. Isn't this amazing? When some of the senators were complaining about Bill C-11, the first censorship bill, the government was mightily perturbed by that. Suddenly, the senators, instead of being a nuisance, stopping the rubber stamping of legislation, Drea, now they are potential allies. So again, unbelievable. Addressing senators examining Bill C-18, Mr. Rodriguez asked if, quote, we collectively have the courage to stand up to the big digital platforms. And I'm looking around the table. I know the answer will be yes. End quote. He told the Transport Anti-Communications Committee.
Anti-communications.
Is transport and wait a minute, why is transport and communications in the same? I mean, what do they have in common, Drea?
There's all these titles going on here. Transport Anti-Communications is now involved in it. I don't know, but that's worth looking into for us as well. But I mean, I don't know. Are you feeling that a lot of people are aware? Like, is it just our bubble that's really aware of sort of the dangers, I think, are to come from this sort of these policies. Because when I talk to people who maybe, don't tune into Rebel News, they seem to not know anything about it. And I really think this is one of the biggest issues that Canada will be facing. I would predict, especially just before the election comes in, I think that's when we're going to start to feel some of the labor pains of all of this.
Well, Drea, you're so right. I'll tell you, if I went down to Yonge Dundas Square and I asked about Bill C-11, Bill C-18, I would really need antidepressants afterwards. I don't think 1 in 100 people, I swear I'm not exaggerating, would know what in blue hell I'm talking about. By the way, you ask these same people, have you seen Kim Kardashian's new rhinestone bikini?
Right.
They'll chat chapter and verse on that one until the sun sets. But I think
Kanye West's girlfriend or wife who looks exactly like Pete Davidson.
Yes, exactly.
So weird.
But I think what Rodriguez is getting here is this idea of the tech giants, like the likes of Facebook, paying royalties to sending out news links of Canadian newspapers and magazines, kind of like, you know what, we that is the blackface liberals, we can't be the only ones propping up this sunset industry. You have to too.
Exactly.
And the tech giants going, no problem. We just won't tweet out Canadian news links. And suddenly this is bullying? Who's the bully here?
Yeah, who is the bully, of course. And also, isn't there something about like sort of a tax break for citizens as well that's coming, like sort of an incentive if you subscribe to the preferred state outlets?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's right in line with this as well. Like, it is so wrong on so many levels. We already have, the state paying for a significant portion of over 95% of the media in Canada. And now you're going to be incentivized to subscribe to these outlets that would, let's face it, without this type of push of taxpayer dollars on them, would be dead. And then you're going to have big tech doing things like this to make it all happen. And then who knows if you'll be able to find independent alternative media anymore just by search.
Yeah, Dre, does anyone in this nation put a quarter in the newspaper box anymore to get their paper or subscribe?
My nieces deliver newspaper, and I'm still so shocked about it happening, but that's their job.
Drea, you said niece during Pride Month. According to Robert Chevalier of the Toronto Police Diversity Division, you don't say niece and you don't say nephew because you don't know if your niece is identifying as a boy. You say
I know
nibbling.
What my niece is.
Yeah, it's a nibbling.
My nieces know who they are. They know what's up.
So yeah, how about this? How about we subscribe to a free market economy? How about we don't pick winners and losers? And by that, I mean media outlets, and for that matter, automotive companies and battery makers, which we are subsidizing to the tune of tens of billions of dollars right now, Drea. This is not the role of government. And, when you mentioned the tax break thing for subscriptions, I wonder, we should put it to the test. There are people that, most of our content at Rebel News is free, but we have premium content that is behind a paywall. And I wonder if our subscribers of that premium content will get a tax break for their Rebel News subscriptions. Yeah. I can hardly wait to see Blackface, explain why you folks are not qualified. But if it's a Toronto Star, come on down.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have to wait and see. Looks like there's another article here from the National Post. Government has options if Facebook, Google pull news content. So apparently, So the Liberal government. Oh, this isn't what you just read, is it?
Oh no. We began, but it's I guess a sidebar, if you will, to what we were saying. Yeah. Basically, Drea, what's happening with the government calling these tech giants like Facebook and Google bullies? What they've done is called the government's bluff, and they go, if we have to pay a royalty for putting out these links, well, then that's okay. We'll obey by the rules, and we won't put out these links. And then suddenly, and I don't think the government expected this. I thought Because so often, and let's be frank, big government and big tech and big pharma, they all march in lockstep.
Hand in hand.
Looks like when it comes to the bottom line, not so much in Silicon Valley. And
the bottom.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the bottom line relates to the algorithm too, because
Yeah.
this is all going to mess up their algorithm, and that's going to make them lose a lot of money if they don't know what readers and scrollers actually want to see. They can't keep offering them that information. I know YouTube, someone at the top of YouTube actually did a full video explaining why they have issues with this and how it's going to mess everything up. So that you're right, it is about the bottom line, and it's good to see this kind of friction.
100%. Our last item on the tech giants. Well, we have a bit of a scoop here at Rebel News, don't we, Drea? What a bombshell. Instagram facilitates vast child porn network? Unbelievable. So isn't this something? You have a contrarian opinion to say vaccines, you're banned, you're deplatformed, you're demonetized, you name it. And meanwhile, the likes of Instagram is peddling child pornography. It doesn't get more repugnant than that, does it?
No, I'm glad that this is being brought attention to, because it's a problem. It's not just a problem on Instagram. It's also a problem on YouTube. YouTube actually has done a lot of things to try to change this type of stuff. But I have personally noticed that Instagram is bad. And when you report something, I've worked with a lot of people who have been victims of sexual abuse, child sexual abuse. And so I tend to report anytime I see a nude child, even if it's, the parents are putting it up because they think it's cute and it's a baby, I report it. But if you report it so many times, Instagram, Facebook, they just come back and they say, like, it's not against our terms and conditions. But then look how heavily they censor, I don't know, talking about what Trump tweeted on January 6th. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that there's awareness about this issue, but it is so concerning that this is a thing. And it kind of even reminds me of pre-Musk Twitter, because I know that since Musk has come, one of his top priorities has been to try to help make sure that is a safer place that isn't exploiting children. And he has made changes in that area. So,
100%. Well, Drea, we got to take another ad break. And on the other side, I want to talk about this shocking story. Folks, if you thought apartheid was something that thankfully died in South Africa in the early 1990s, well, guess what? There's an Ontario school board that's going to be hosting a racially segregated summer camp right here in 2023. Unbelievable. We'll talk about that on the other side of this ad.
Spike protein in a post-pandemic world is something we all have to grapple with, whether you've had the virus, you've been vaccinated yourself, or if you're around those who were. The wellness company's Spike Support Formula is a daily supplement that can help you feel your best and then stay that way. Go to twccanada.health to get back to that pre-pandemic feeling with Spike Support. Use coupon code REBEL to save 10% off these doctor-formulated products, which are rooted in science. And for a limited time, your first month's membership is only 99 cents. That's twccanada.health, coupon code REBEL at checkout. It's time to put your wellness back in the driver's seat.
Drea, I just cannot believe the left anymore. What they used to stand up against, i.e. apartheid. I remember the days of the boycotts and the divestment and pulling investments of South Africa, not allowing them to play in the Olympics and the World Cup with good reason. And it was to end that hideous racist system called apartheid, where you were judged by the color of your skin. You were black or white or colored or Asian, and there were separate buses for you. There were separate drinking fountains.
Yeah.
It was like some kind of otherworld nightmare. I got to tell you, I've been to South Africa. My wife, the lovely Lady Menzoid, she, her parents made the decision. They were running successful businesses in Johannesburg, but they could not take the system anymore. So in 1976, they left. And funny story here, they had two choices for their landing pad. It was either going to be Los Angeles or Toronto. And they came to Toronto to check it out in the month of July.
Wow.
And they said, all this rubbish about winter and snow and cold. Look at it. It's like hotter in Toronto than it is in Johannesburg. We don't even have to check out Los Angeles. We're staying here. And then in November, little white stuff came down from the sky. And it was a real novelty at first. Oh, that wore off in about 3 days. But the funny thing is, if they went to LA first or if they went to Toronto in February, I never would have met the lovely Lady Menzoid. But that was the reason they gave up everything. It was the odious political system of apartheid. And now, what do we have? We have the left promoting apartheid. Drea, this must surely disturb you as much as it does me.
It is so incredibly disturbing. And I also, like, who is behind this? I am willing to bet, I could be wrong, that it's not Black people that are predominantly behind this. I'm just going to throw that out there. Yep. But, it says here, the Durham Catholic Catholic, of course. And again, Catholic District School Board will be offering a science, technology, engineering, and mathematics summer camp restricted to Black students. This is so wrong. And is this like tied in with this whole new thing about math being racist? Somehow math is racist. It says the school board is pleased to share they are hosting a summer camp for only Black students, said former Ontario High School teachers. So they're pleased to have it. And what I really hate about this stuff is that it tells my children, of course, they are not raised to believe this, but it tells them that something is wrong with them. You've been racialized. It sounds like something has horrific happened to you before and you're having to deal with it. You need these special things because, you're a little special, and that's not the case. And of course, the segregation aspect of it, we are just taking so many steps backwards with this wokeness. And even I have a child who is actually graduating this year from public school. I homeschool my little one, and I'm noticing in scholarships, the scholarships that she's applying for, they are being so racist against white kids. Honestly, there's so many scholarships out there for the LGBTQ community and for racialized people. And then white kids are just completely eliminated, even though they're statistically the most people in Canada. It's nuts.
Drea, my point of view, people might say, they might look at me and go, oh, yeah, it's easy for you, a whitey, to be triggered by such a social justice initiative. I say it's not true. You just said very adroitly how I feel. And also I think back to half a century ago, Drea, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous speech, his I Have a Dream speech, where he said that his dream was basically that one day we will judge a person not by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. Dr. Martin Luther King is rolling in his grave right now. In fact, if he were alive and well and speaking at school boards today, Drea, he would be demonized as a racist. I am serious about this. He dreamed of a colorblind society, and the left today is all about colorblindness being a form of racism. We must, cherry pick and put into different silos, different people based on identity groups. And that was completely contrary to what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had to say on the lawns of Washington, D.C. some half century ago. I find it sickening. And I don't understand. And for this to be a Catholic school board initiative, all I can think about.
Yeah, that's what I was going to.
Well, the Durham District School Board, that to me is the worst school board in Ontario. And folks, I know that's saying a lot when you have Halton, Ottawa, Waterloo, Toronto. But it's almost as though the Durham Catholic District School Board went, hey, what's with all this publicity the Durham District Board is getting? We want to get that kind of publicity too. Well, if that was your agenda, boy, you're getting it. You are racist for doing this. That is it.
Agreed.
How does that fit into Catholic doctrine?
Exactly. And it's not just Catholic. There's the odd, Christian church doing this stuff. It is racist. I believe it's Galatians where the Bible makes it very clear. You're not supposed to behave like this. I can't remember the scripture, neither Jew, or it talks about there's no difference between the races. So why are we doing separate classes here? It looks like the Waterloo Region District School Board said on March 10th, it will be hosting a career fair restricted to non-white people. That is so racist. So here's these young kids, they're getting to, like I said, my eldest daughter's age where, what am I going to do in life? What careers can I have? And things like that. And the white kids are told, no, sorry, you can't even go to this career fair. This is disgusting. I don't know why more white people are not enraged about this. Honestly, I guess they've just been put in their place, because if the tables were turned and this type of stuff was happening and Black people were not allowed to go, you better believe Black people would be protesting about this.
No, I know that. Well, I'll tell you why a lot of white people aren't saying anything, Drea. In our cancel culture, you're going to be demonized and vilified as a racist, a bigot, anti-Black, you name it, just for saying, how about equality? And, really what the racism is here, Drea, I call it the racism of lowered expectations. That because you're a visible minority, you have to have something special. You have to have an additional leg up. No. Black girls, Black boys are as strong as those of every other race and should be treated as such. And by creating this special kind of program, you're basically suggesting otherwise. That's what I say, Drea.
Yeah. Our premier here in BC, David Evie, just did a tweet the other day about, the anti-racism stuff that they're working on and our taxpayer dollars are going to. And I just said, can you answer one simple question for me? What can a white person in BC do that I can't? If you can answer that question, okay, then we've got a problem.
Why does he bring race into it?
Oh, he's always talking about race. But the thing is, I'm just saying, why aren't we celebrating that Canada is actually diverse and is not a racist country?
Yep.
Why are we putting all this racism to battle, phantom racism? You're never going to eliminate, obviously, there's a little bit of racism everywhere, but Canada is not at the top of racist country, if you ask me.
And the left in Canada and the United States, where everything that our nations are based on, it's white supremacy, it's a racist society, and yet you go to the embassies around the world of some 200 countries, and where are they lined up to move, right? Why would they go to some kind of Ku Klux Klan utopia as Canada or the U.S.?
Exactly. Part of my family was invited, welcome to Canada, and given free land in Nova Scotia, to escape slavery. We are not a racist country.
Yeah, 100%. Well, we should move on to this. I saw this story today, and it knocked me out. I could not believe the hypocrisy. It's an ongoing theme of this show right now, isn't it, Drea? But the Ontario Lottery and Gaming Corporation CEO, that would be Duncan Hannay. Duncan Hannay. Yeah, not Duncan Brown. He was the one that was forced to resign in disgrace with all the insider wins scandal. But I digress. Anyways, he's complaining, if you can imagine, Drea, about online casino and sports betting sites. Basically, their advertising. I mean, holy mackerel. From the OLG, I can't listen to a radio or watch a TV show or go to an online site site or read a newspaper without coming across or see a billboard, an OLG ad pushing their merchandise. But what's happened in the last year is, sports gambling has been liberalized a little. I mean that in the classical sense of the word. So no longer does the OLG have a monopoly on their sports gambling. And what a hideous monopoly of that was. That was Proline, and if you're a smart bettor, you are bringing your money to an offshore casino instead of giving it to the shysters at the OLG. But he's saying that, you know what, they're playing the social responsibility card, even though they spend way more in marketing their lottery games, Drea. And it's about the advertising. Maybe there needs to be limits. Maybe we need to have a ban, like you can't advertise cigarettes anymore. And that's where I'm coming to you, my friend. In the big picture, I don't care if it's lottery tickets, if it's hard liquor, yes, even cigarettes, and we know used as directed, you're going to prematurely end your life or die. The point is, if these products are legal, if they have the state's blessing to be sold, then they should be advertised, period. And I don't care how much Bet365.com or MGM or any of the other online casinos are spending. They have a legal product. They have a license. They are permitted to sell, as long as you don't go to minors, of course. That's the caveat. So as far as I'm concerned, they can blow their brains out on their advertising and marketing budgets. And for the OLG to state this, if he meant this, the OLG would end all of its advertising right now for scratch tickets, Loterio, Lotto 649, you name it. This is just staggering how this out-of-control CEO of a gambling bureaucracy, and that's another thing, Drea. Why is the government in gambling as a seller of gambling products? Your role is to tax it and to regulate it, not to sell it. And that's all I have to say. This is outrageous and hypocritical. What do you say, my friend?
Yeah, it definitely seems so. Part of the article says that the question is echoing what some in Ontario have been saying. I clicked on that link and they're saying basically that it needs to stop for mental health reasons. And then it says for more than a year that they've been saying this, which isn't really a long time when you think of this, as the province launched a competitive market for iGaming in April of last year, allowing more than 40 legal competitors to OLG to take bets. In just a year of doing business, private sector operators have handled more than 35 billion in wagers and generated over 1.4 billion in gross revenue. So that's about 20% of that is owned to the province. So yeah, I actually hadn't heard about any of this. But yeah, this does seem outrageous.
Oh, 100%. And so what is the OLG CEO? What is his real motive, his unspoken strategy, Drea? I bet you with the growth of all these sports betting apps, I don't know this for sure, but it can't be good for OLG's bottom line. No. If you have X number of dollars to gamble with, it's going to go to scratch tickets, lottery tickets, daily keynote, you name it, or sports. And if you blow the budget on the Leafs, as so many people in this province are wont to do, then there's no more money left for the OLG's products. Yeah. This is clearly what's going on. And we should point out, because the NDP never wanted to miss out on supporting a bad idea. Well, yeah, they're with the OLG on this. That would be France Jalanis. And she said, every commercial during the Stanley Cup playoffs seems to be from one of the new companies offering Ontario sports betting and internet gambling. I have kids and grandkids. They all know more about iGaming than I do. Oh, yeah? Well, you know what? Why don't you resign? Because if your kids know more about the file that you're a critic for, I think we're in a bit of trouble here, right? And also, if you're really,
And why don't you watch what your kids are doing as well?
Thank you. Why don't you say something, listen, you're not old enough to gamble, but even if you were 18 years old, What I would do, I would determine in your budget what's discretionary income, and maybe you want to buy a pair of blue jeans, maybe you want to put a bet on the Super Bowl, but you can't do both. But you're going to have to gamble responsibly. That's the kind of conversation I would have. Oh, no, let's ban the advertising, for the sports apps. I mean, again, it's like this NDP MPP, Drea, is asking for the nanny state to take care of her own kids.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, it's so obvious. You can see what this is really all about if you read between the lines, and it will be interesting to see what actually happens out of all of this.
Yeah, I would imagine it's going to go down to defeat. And I say this because, if you're the Toronto Star, for example, now once upon a time, Doug Ford and his late great brother Rob Ford, they called the journalists at the Toronto Star a bunch of maggots. But last year, they gave Torstar, the parent, a sports betting license that is going to garner $500 million a year for Torstar. So somehow they're all buddy-buddy. What were a bunch of maggots are now entitled profiteers. So I don't think Fat Bastard is going to kill the golden goose here. He's obviously got a special kind of relationship going with the Star. I think it's to buy positive media coverage, Drea. I swear to God, I think that's his unspoken strategy. So the idea of this hurting Torstar revenues and other friends in the online gambling sphere, not going to happen.
No. We got next on the list a little bit more of Trudeau. It looks like him and MP Michael Cooper went head-to-head in Parliament over the fake rapporteur. It looks like it's appearing as though JT, good old JT, may have withheld some important information there. So I think we have a video of that, do we not?
Let's check it out.
Yesterday, the Prime Minister's loyal rapporteur was asked to reconcile his conclusion that the spreading of disinformation in the 2021 election could not be attributed to the Beijing regime with the CSIS briefing to the former leader of the Conservative Party that said the opposite. The rapporteur said that he based his conclusion on evidence that he had at the time, evidence that was provided by this government. So, did the rapporteur ignore material evidence, or did this government withhold it from him? Which one is it?
Honourable Prime Minister. Speaker, that evidence is available to the Leader of the Opposition if only he were to accept a top-secret briefing that he prefers to refuse so he can continue his baseless personal attacks against an eminent Canadian. But further than that, Mr. Speaker, it is a panel of expert public service officials who determined both in 2019 and 2021 that the election integrity held, mechanisms that this government put in place that previous governments never bothered with. That's how we know the integrity of the elections in 2019 and 2021 held.
That's right.
The honourable member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Mr. Speaker, a report of the government's rapid response mechanism identified that Beijing-controlled social media accounts were spreading disinformation in the 2021 election targeting the Conservative Party, including an account with 26 million followers. And yet, incredibly, the rapporteur concluded otherwise. He ignored the report, he ignored the evidence, and instead whitewashed Beijing's interference. The conclusions of the rapporteur have no credibility. Will the Prime Minister fire him and finally call an independent public inquiry?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
These are the conclusions of the top public officials who had the task during the 2021 and 2019 elections to monitor the foreign interference that has been ongoing in this country for years and years, against with the former Minister of Elections for the Conservatives, the current leader, did nothing. We established a protocol whereby the integrity of those elections were evaluated and reported on. That integrity held. Now, if the Conservatives think the integrity of the elections didn't hold in 19 or 21, let them say so, Mr. Speaker. That's right.
Yeah, I'll say so. The integrity is just fine because the blackface Liberals got reelected in both of those years, Drea. And, you know, and Conservatives aside, we know of at least one NDP MP who was targeted by the Chinese. When, oh when, is Jagmeet Singh going to find his spine and stand up to this government instead of playing this perverse kabuki theater of condemning Justin on social media and then always propping it up? It's even affecting his party, which I can tell you is increasingly lacking in relevance as this goes on. And I'm tired also of hearing the eminent Canadian David Johnston. He is a personal family friend. Drea, Trudeau should never have offered him this job. And Johnson
right there,
should have,
it ends.
Yeah, said respectfully, Mr. Prime Minister, I cannot accept this. We, as you know, we are close family friends, and forget about the perception of a conflict of interest. This is conflict of interest classic. This is a mess, and I can hardly wait for whenever our next federal election is going to happen, Drea, because this scandal gets worse and worse with every passing week.
Yeah, the cards continue to fall, and more and more comes out. And as far as your Jagmeet Singh question, that's going to be on the people. It's got to be his own people, his own voters that start to say enough is enough. Quit your bromance with Trudeau and start being a leader. And but I won't hold my breath.
But you know, Drea, of course, his seat is out in your neck of the woods, and I hear whispers that his seat as leader of the NDP, it's in jeopardy. It is not necessarily a slam dunk. I know so many in the, I heard former Liberal MP Dan McTague, who sat on the Hill for 18 years as a Liberal. He's saying the people he meets in the Sikh community are disgusted with Jagmeet Singh. They're saying, he's well past his best before date. This dog don't hunt, as they say down in Alabama. So I'm wondering, have you heard whispers too that it's by no means certain he'll even be the leader after the next election, whenever that'll be?
Well, I can tell you I have heard members of the Sikh community share that they are not his fans. They say that his last name, Singh, means lion. He's not a lion. He's not representing like a lion, and he's an embarrassment to them. So it wouldn't surprise me.
I didn't know. Is that what the English translation of Singh is, lion?
I don't know about English, but I don't know. That's what they told me.
Oh,
just
okay.
took their word.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I think a little less lion, a lot
English.
more pussycat. That's Jagmeet Singh for you there. So, well, Drea, I see we're at the finish line. Unless we have some super chats, my friend. We got a couple.
Okay, so the words. One sec. The word "sing" is derived from Sanskrit word meaning lion.
There you go.
So there.
Thank you.
Something new every day. Yeah.
Drea, thank you for educating me. That's my lesson of the day.
And Foodus has donated $5 to live chat. Thank you very much. And says 2S stands for two spirit, right?
Yes.
Yes. Because I am of the spirit to not file any slave tax this year. Keep up the good struggle, Rebel. Aren't we all?
And I know according to the Toronto Police Service transgender training module, you're only allowed to identify as two-spirit if you're Native. So that makes the question arise for me, Drea, if I'm non-Native, but I'm, kind of like a modern day male version of Sybil, 16 personalities. What's the word for that?
Well, now there is are you Indigenous do you identify as Indigenous? So you have an in, David, you have an in. You can identify.
Oh my goodness. It's like that Meryl Streep movie, isn't it?
Looks
Drea?
like we have one more chat before we leave, and then we're signing off. It's from AMT60, another $5 donation. Thank you guys very much. When I was recovering from COVID in the hospital in February 2022, a Black patient said I was white privileged and the Jamaican registered nurses treated me badly. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Treated well by other nationalities. So I'm sorry. I hope you made some sort of complaint about that, if that's true. But yeah, how white privileged are you suffering in the hospital that everybody has access to because you have COVID? It just doesn't make any sense.
Here's the question based on an anecdote like that, Drea. And I think of, my friend Phil, and many years ago we had this conversation, and I think I was asking him, do you experience racism in Toronto? He says, every day. And I go, oh, geez, Phil, I'm so sorry. Like what? He says, I get on the subway, the operator's rude to me. I go to a restaurant, the waitress, is not smiling. And I go, Phil, welcome to my world. I experience that every day too. Smiling. It might be that your race has nothing to do with it, and these are just miserable people that treat all the customers the same, right?
And that's what's dangerous about teaching critical race theory to kids, is because now their perspective is tainted. This person isn't smiling at me; they're racist. This person didn't sit by me, so.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Let's not so easily jump to the race card. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. There might be more to it than that. Okay, well, Drea, thank you so much for your co-hosting skills. Much appreciated. Thank you to Olivia and Efren, our super producers behind the wall. And thank you to our audience, especially those of you who made some financial donations. That is so greatly appreciated. Our Alberta team will be hosting the live stream tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. In the meantime, folks, as always, stay safe and stay sane.
Today, I had the pleasure of tabling the changes we are proposing to the standing orders that would render the temporary changes that were made during COVID permanent. I think this is an important moment for Parliament. This should be a signal that the House of the Common People is a place where all can run, where somebody who has a family or who has challenges is going to be able to be afforded the flexibility